The Muddler Minnow is a popular and versatile artificial fly of the streamer type used in fly fishing and fly tying. Origin: the Muddler Minnow was originated by Don Gapin of Anoka, Minnesota in 1937, to imitate the slimy sculpin. Gapin was the son of resort operators Jesse and Sue Gapin, who ran the Gateway Lodge Resort on Hungry Jack Lake and what is now the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness in the 1920s. In 1936, the Gapins opened a second resort, the Chalet Bungalow Lodge, on the Nipigon River in Ontario, to be operated by Don. In 1937, Gapin developed this fly to catch Nipigon strain brook trout, Ontario, Canada. The muddler, as it is informally known by anglers, was popularized by Montana, United States fisherman and fly tier Dan Bailey. It is now a popular pattern worldwide and is likely found in nearly every angler's fly box, in one form or another. Imitations. The versatility of the Muddler Minnow stems from this pattern's ability to mimic a variety of aquatic and terrestrial forage, ranging from sculpins to leeches to grasshoppers, crickets, spent mayflies, emerging green drakes, stonefly nymphs, mice, tadpoles, dace shiners, chubs, and other minnows, along with a host of other creatures. Construction. There are limitless material and color variations, however the essence of the Muddler Minnow is a spun deer hair head. While each muddler may differ in color or profile, all true muddlers have a fore-end body of spun deer hair that is clipped close to the shank to provide a buoyant head. Typically there is an underwing of squirrel hair and a wing of mottled secondary turkey feather. Often the fly body is made of gold, silver, mylar or tinsel wrapped around the hook shank. Marabou may be tied in as a substitute wing for color and lifelike movement through the water. The head may be weighted or unweighted, according to the style of fishing, the target species and the intended imitation. The muddler has served for the basis of several patterns, including the Spudler, Muddler Hopper, Missoulian Spook, Searcy Muddler, Keel Muddler, and so on. But even in its simplest and original form, it remains a very effective fly. Besides the traditional deer hair, many muddlers are tied today with heads made of antelope, spun wool, dubbing, chenille, or other materials. Whether they should properly be called muddlers is a moot point. Note that the fly pictured in the top of the article, while typical, is not a traditional muddler minnow. The traditional muddler uses brown mottled turkey quill segments for both tail and wing. It also seems to lack the underwing of gray squirrel tail. As originally tied by Don Gapin, the Muddler Minnow's head was sparse and raggedy, the head and collar being fashioned from a single clump of deer hair. The dense head featured on most of today's muddlers was the invention of Dan Bailey, California, 1950, because muddlers were mainly used to imitate large grasshoppers out west back in the 1950s. Target species. Muddler patterns are generally effective when fishing for any freshwater or saltwater species in colder warm water environments. This pattern is most often used to catch all species of trout, steelhead, Arctic char, large grayling, both Atlantic and Pacific salmon, taimen, lennox, smallmouth and largemouth bass, pike, redfish, tarpon, and almost anything else that swims. Fishing the muddler. Effective retrieval tactics include stripping the floating muddler across the water surface rhythmically, imparting air wake, or allowing the muddler to sink and twitching or pulsating it against or across a river's current. An unweighted muddler will float and appears as a hopper moth of struggling mouse. With a tiny piece of split shot in front of it, the muddler can be made to swim slowly over weed beds and shallow gravel bars. does. With more weight, the muddler can be stripped wildly in the shallows to imitate an alarmed baitfish, or allowed to settle in deeper water. When weighted either on the fly itself with split shot, or a sinking leader line, the muddler may be fished right on the bottom to effectively imitate a sculpin. When imitating sculpins, muddlers must be kept right on the bottom and fish slowly, with occasional fast strips of maybe a foot to a yard, as if trying to escape a predator. Tied on salmon hooks in sizes 2 to 10, the muddler is an excellent fly for Atlantic salmon. It can be fished on the swing, like a typical salmon wet fly, or it can be fished in the surface film as a waking fly. Use of the Portland Creek riffle hitch is desirable, but not entirely necessary, to effectively wake a muddler. Muddlers tied on salmon double hooks are particularly good waking flies. Know that salmon will often follow the waking fly and will not take until the end of the waking drift. For this reason, it's always a good idea to let the muddler wobble in the current at the bottom of the drift and twitch it a few times before casting again.